This is an ad by BetterHelp. What's your perfect night? Is it curling up on the couch for a cozy, peaceful night in? Therapy can feel a bit like that, your comfort place where you replenish your energy. With BetterHelp, get matched with a therapist based on your needs entirely online. It's convenient and suited to your schedule. Find comfort this season with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com. This is an ad by BetterHelp. What's your perfect night? Maybe you're settled at home alone or with loved ones, covered in blankets, about to watch your favorite show. It's cozy, it's calm, and you're ready for a perfect night in. Therapy can feel a bit like that, a place for comfort, a time when you replenish your energy and take care of yourself. And hey, you can even do it without leaving that same cozy couch. This season is the perfect time to give therapy a try, right from the comfort of home. With BetterHelp, get matched with a tailored therapist based on your needs and preferences entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Find comfort this season with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour two. I was about to think, I don't even know what day it is. Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. We'll be out tomorrow for LSU and Baylor, and then we'll be out on Wednesday for New Year's Day, and then we'll be back in action Thursday and Friday of this week, kicking off 2025. Happy New Year to all of y'all out there. We got one more hour to go here this year. We'll chat with Wilson Alexander coming up in 10-15 minutes, and we'll chat with Denton Day of SiriusXM's College Football Overtime. We'll talk LSU Baylor with Wilson, College Football Playoff with Denton, with a little Commanders talk shoehorned in there as well. But right now, I got to talk about some really important stuff, vitally important stuff. Basketball in the PMAC. Last night, LSU played Mississippi Valley State, and the statistics for this Mississippi Valley State team continue to really impress me. Like, some of the things that this team has been able to do in 2 months are truly shocking to me. Like, the fact that a team could come into the Assembly Center in late December, and of 364 teams in college basketball, be 364th in offensive and defensive efficiency is remarkable. The fact that they could come into the PMAC and lose a game by 75 points. Sorry, 65. They lost by 72 earlier this year to Missouri. By 65 points is amazing. But they continue to do things that are even more amazing to me. Like, listen to this. They've got a guard on their team named Donovan Sanders. Donovan Sanders had 5 assists last night. That's a nice effort in 40 minutes of basketball. Dished out 5 assists. No one else on Mississippi Valley State's entire team had an assist in 40 minutes of basketball. How is that possible? How, in 40 minutes, could not one other player on their team pass the ball to another player who then scored? How? It's the basic concept of the game. Yet they couldn't pull it off. They had 13 field goals that weren't assisted on. They did not attempt a foul shot until there were under 9 minutes to play in the game. They went nearly 32 minutes without a free throw attempt. Some of this boggles the mind, and it's not like it was one time they did this. They did the same thing against Texas, and the same thing against Kansas State, and the same thing against Missouri, the same thing against North Texas. I mean, It's amazing. I realize that none of you, not a one of you, tuned in today to hear about Mississippi Valley State basketball. But I feel like you might have learned something. They're the worst defensive efficiency team and the worst offensive efficiency team. They've lost by 65 plus twice. They didn't attempt a free throw for 32 minutes. Only one guy on the entire team registered an assist in a 40-minute basketball game. This stuff it's fascinating to me. I feel like I'm Tim Kirkshin over here diving into these numbers, but it is some special stuff. Now, last night in the PMAC, LSU had a 42-point lead at halftime. That is the largest margin of victory in a first half in the history of LSU basketball, dating back past the 70s. I mean, it's amazing to have watched that. I was actually amazed. Now, y'all would probably care a little bit more about LSU's team, so I'll give you a nugget on that before we get back into football. But I thought a couple of things were important for LSU in the game. I thought that it was important for Jordan Sears to see some shots go in. He had a bumpy go the last two games. He made 3 threes in the game, which I thought was really good. I thought it was also very good that LSU did a great job on the defensive glass. That's been a real problem for LSU. You're talking about a Mississippi Valley State team that missed 37 shots, and they only got 4 offensive rebounds. So that's really good for LSU to have done that. And the Tigers have to keep the turnover numbers down, and they did that. They only had 6 turnovers in the game, and 2 of them were by Derek Fountain, who hasn't played very much. So when I look at Jordan Sears and Jai Bailey and Cam Carter, your veteran backcourt, and I look at those guys combining to go 18 for 28 from the floor, that's very good. Those guys combined to go 8 of 17 from deep, which is very good. Those guys combined for just 2 turnovers, which is very good. Those guys are going to be the engine of LSU's offense. I know that you're not going to get a ton of traditional offense out of Damian Collins and Corey Chess. Now, those guys did score 23 points combined in the game. Collins had 15, and Chess did his thing, 4 of 5 from the floor for 8 points, and that's all going to come around the rim with a bunch of dunks. But I thought that was good for them as well. Victorious Miller continues his ascent as another scoring option. He had 20 points for LSU, was 9 of 13 from the floor, which is great, showed a great mid-range game, and also knocked down 2 of his 5 3-pointers. I thought all of that was very, very encouraging. They were able to get Mike Williams back on the floor. He only played 4 minutes, but he did play. I had told you, well, Matt McMahon said it. I said it on the show and then wrote it at LouisianaSports.net that Williams was away from the team for personal reasons and should be back after Christmas. This day and age, this era where so many players leave and go in the portal and do all these kinds of things, even mid-season, when I see something like that, certainly my eyes perk up, but it was good to see Mike Williams back and not playing a lot, but being out there on the floor. So that's a good thing for him. Noah Boyd also was able to get out there and give LSU 5 minutes. I don't know that he's going to be able to help at all. For those that aren't familiar with Noah Boyd, he's a 7-foot junior college transfer. He's a big body, and you lose Jalen Reed, you need as many big bodies as you can get. And Boyd is certainly the biggest, most imposing force that LSU has. Just don't know if he's ready to play SEC basketball at this point, but did go out there and give LSU 5 minutes of action. Robert Miller played 17 minutes, made his 2 shot attempts, and more importantly, grabbed 6 rebounds and blocked 2 shots. That's going to be his role, to come in and give you 5 or 6, 7, 8 minutes in SEC games that don't involve a lot of front court foul trouble, and see what he can give you. But I thought in this game, and I wrote this at LouisianaSports.net after, there's just not a lot of meat on the bone as far as LSU goes in this game. You're playing the worst team in the country. I feel like I feel bad saying that, but every metric backs it up. They get beat by 60 every time out. They're the worst defensive and offensive team in the country. They had the largest halftime deficit in the history of the PMAC. They had 1 player register an assist. I don't know what else to tell you. They're 0-11 against D1 teams. Their 2 wins have come against Mississippi University for women and something called Oakwood. That's a school in Montgomery, I believe. So it's bad. It's a bad team. But the good thing is that we've now emerged from this abyss that was 3 weeks of basketball against Stetson, UNO, and Mississippi Valley State that was just unwatchable. Like, those teams are unwatchable. and LSU's finally done with it. LSU did actually move up in the net rankings because their efficiency numbers were so good in this game. You beat a team by 65 points, even if they are the lowest ranked team in the net, your ranking does potentially go up, and LSU did see a little bump in the net rankings. I wrote about that again this morning over at LouisianaSports.net. If you want to read that, every Monday I'm putting a net update there. And LSU jumps to number 54 in the net. That is still the second lowest in the SEC. South Carolina is last among SEC teams at number 85. But there are no more truly bad losses left on the schedule for LSU. You have jumped every landmine in the non-conference, and now you set yourself up to go out there and try to handle your business in SEC play and get into the NCAA tournament. It starts with 4 games that would appear winnable if challenging, but you got to get off to a good start if you're LSU, because you know that around the corner, Auburn's lurking, Tennessee's lurking, Bama's lurking, Florida's lurking, Arkansas's lurking. Like, these teams are really, really good. So you've got to get wins where you can find them, and LSU starts that journey with Vanderbilt in the Assembly Center coming up on Saturday. It's an afternoon tip, so hopefully there'll be a good crowd. Matt McMahon started his press conference yesterday after Mississippi Valley State and said, yeah, excited to get to Vanderbilt, hoping to have a good crowd in the PMAC. I know that he really wants a home court advantage to start to show up after the new year. That's generally when LSU fans will start to come to the PMAC a little bit more often. If you're listening, you're within earshot, and you can get to the PMAC on Saturday, they would really appreciate a good crowd. They need to get off to a good start. You're sitting there at 11-2. That's a passable non-conference grade for this LSU team, but now conference play starts, and that's very, very important.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
We're right about 24 hours from kickoff between LSU and Baylor in the Kinder's Texas Bowl over in Houston. Wilson Alexander covering the team for The Advocate has been over in Houston for a couple of days now. It gives us a little bit of time via the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Wilson, thanks so much for the time. How are you, man?
This is an ad by BetterHelp. What's your perfect night? Is it curling up on the couch for a cozy, peaceful night in? Therapy can feel a bit like that. Your comfort place where you replenish your energy. With BetterHelp, get matched with a therapist based on your needs, entirely online. It's convenient and suited to your schedule. Find comfort this season with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com to learn more and save 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com.
This is an ad by BetterHelp. What's your perfect night? Maybe you're settled at home alone or with loved ones, covered in blankets, about to watch your favorite show. It's cozy, it's calm, and you're ready for a perfect night in. Therapy can feel a bit like that. A place for comfort, a time when you replenish your energy and take care of yourself. And hey, you can even do it without leaving that same cozy couch. This season is the perfect time to give therapy a try, right from the comfort of home. With BetterHelp, get matched with a tailored therapist based on your needs and preferences entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Find comfort this season with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com.
Doing well, Hunt. How are you?
Doing all right. Have you gone any like the cattle roping stuff or whatever they're doing over there? Is there some energy around this bowl game?
I don't know if energy is the right word for it necessarily. There's some activities.
Okay.
It was kind of funny because I remember they did the same thing back in 2021 when LSU played here, the rodeo thing, and you've seen Whip Weeks and West Weeks and Kevin Peoples too, like trying to rope a wooden cow thing, and they're chasing down calves, and they're trying to pull a ribbon off of a tail of a bull or a cow or something. So it was all rather silly, but they say that event, the winner of it, usually goes on to win the game, and LSU won 6-1. So maybe it portends some good fortune.
Why would Baylor even show up then, is my thought. Well, actually, a lot of Baylor players are showing up, but I believe 2 of them. LSU not as fortunate, specifically on the offense. I know you've been able to head out to practice, and the offensive line has been getting a lot of attention. What can you tell us about what that looks like and what the expectation is for LSU's offensive line in this game?
certainly looks a lot different from what we saw throughout the season, really throughout the past 2 years, because you don't have those bookend tackles now with Will Campbell and Emory Jones. Garrett Dellinger is out as well, and with that, he didn't come back off that high ankle sprain for this game. And so you looking at offensive line left to right of Tyree Adams, Paul Mabenga, DJ Chester, Bo Bordelon / Cohen Eccles at right guard, and then Miles Frazier at right tackle. Brian Kelly said today they would rotate Bordelon and Eccles. And Miles Frazier had some really positive and things to say about Cohen Eccles, the way that he's looked here recently. Called him quite physical at the point of attack. And so we might be able to kind of see him get his first significant reps here in this game.
Despite what the fans might believe, the offensive line was a strength of this team, especially in pass protection. The issues in the run game were what they were, but they did a good job of keeping Garrett Nussmeier upright enough to throw for a lot of yards. How does the LSU offense change in your estimation with this new look?
I don't know what to expect exactly, because it's not just the offensive line where you've got these guys going. You don't have 3 of the top 4 pass catchers. So you've got some guys who've been here all season at the running back position, but can LSU establish the run in this game? Baylor has not had the best defense, but they've been a little bit more susceptible in the back end. So LSU is going to need to be able to keep throwing the ball and, probably continue to rely on that strength. But a lot of that's going to be key for this offensive line, this new group being able to come together and give Garrett Nussmeier that same amount of time. And we just don't know if he's going to necessarily have it, because even though I don't think Baylor's pass rush necessarily frightens you, it's not like some of the things that LSU saw this year with A&M or Ole Miss or anything like that. You got Tyree Adams playing his first career start at left tackle. Miles Frazier kicking out to right tackle again after playing guard for the last few years. Those new faces that we already mentioned at right guard. So there's going to be a lot of new guys out there that are going to have to give Garrett Nussmeier time for this offense to be able to operate.
Where do you think Trey'Dez Green's going to line up more often than not?
I think he'll line up more often than not at tight end. Brian Kelly was asked about him today and said that he's been really impressed with how Trey'Dez has kind of embraced that role in terms of the inline blocking. When we watched practice and they were running some simulated scripted plays, he was kind of where you would normally see Mason Taylor playing. There could be some, looks with him split out wide, kind of like you saw Mason Taylor do this year, where he could line up in the slot and that kind of thing. But with Trey'Dez being the only scholarship tight end on the roster, he's probably going to have to do a lot more of the traditional tight end stuff. Brian Kelly said today that they didn't just remake the whole offense and what that tight end position does, simply because all they have right now is Trey'Dez Green and Giovanni Peterson, a walk-on who's going to get some reps here as well. So he'll probably have to do a lot of the traditional tight end stuff, but maybe they'll split him out wide a little bit more often than maybe usual, just because that seems to be more of his strength.
This is a tougher question to answer. I'll try. I'll give you a shot. How much healthier do you think Caden Durham probably feels today than he did around Thanksgiving?
That is a tough question to answer, but I would say certainly healthier, because an injury like that time helps immensely. And, he was able to take a few weeks off between the end of the season and the start of bowl prep. And so I don't have an exact, percentage of how healthy he feels and that kind of thing, but he has to feel better than he did back then after having a little bit of a break.
Let's switch over to the defense. Fewer losses there, but I think safety is a spot that a lot of people are a little interested in. What do you know about that?
Yeah, Javian Toviano and Deshaun Spears are going to get a lot more playing time, especially Toviano, who we didn't really see much of at all this season. Now that he is back at safety, and with Major Burns not playing in this game, Sage Ryan having transferred to Ole Miss, those two guys in particular are going to get a lot more reps. Starting Gilbert's still out there. I would expect him to probably start again, but the other safety spot is going to be either Spears or Toviano, and even then they might rotate him some with Gilbert. And so you're going to get a lot of playing time out of those two, kind of a chance to really get a good evaluation on them going into the offseason.
No question. As far as the defensive tackle rotation goes, you got the older guys, Shand, Paez, they played a ton for you. And then I thought McKinley and Bro kind of showed some flashes late in the season. How do you think that rotation will look in this game?
Probably about the same as it did throughout the year. I mean, the only person, I guess, who's really a part of that rotation who's no longer here is JVR Suggs. And so, it's probably going to have Shand and Paez starting again with a lot of Ahmad Bro and Dominic McKinley. LSU, next year, they got to replace a ton on this defense. But at least for this game, on the defensive side, a lot of these seniors didn't opt out. Braden Swinson, Savion Jones, Gio Paez, Paris Shand, Greg Penn, they're all playing. Zy Alexander as well. And so LSU's defense remained pretty close to intact other than that safety position from where it was during the season. So I would expect that rotation at defensive tackle to be pretty similar to what they had throughout the year.
Last week, Matt Musso was hosting AFR for Moscona, and he had a Baylor beat writer on from the Waco paper. And the question was like, how are vibes over in Waco? And they're like, they couldn't be higher. 6 wins in a row. Everyone's really excited. Big time opponent in the game. Like, this is a big weekend for Baylor. What do you get the sense is the energy level from the LSU side? We kind of led with that, but you've been around practice and done some interviews. How do you feel about their energy level going to this game?
Yeah, seeing them come into the team hotel the other day, and just anytime I've kind of been around the players, they just seem loose. I mean, are they super jazzed about the Texas Bowl? I don't know. They'd probably rather be somewhere else. But I think the guys who are here do really want to play well and win this game. I mean, they still have a sour taste in their mouth from going 8-4 this year. They aren't happy about that, and I think they want to try to end the season on a high note. A lot of the guys who, especially kind of the core of the team, when you talk about going into next year, like Garrett Nussmeier and Weeks and Aaron Anderson and some of these guys, they're going to be back next year, and they don't want to end the season on a loss. I think that the vibe has been pretty good around them. Are they maybe as energized as a Baylor team on a 6-game winning streak, which went 3-9 last year and is playing in its first bowl game since 2022? Maybe it's a little bit of a different sense, but I think that the motivation is still there, at least for the guys who are playing in this game.
It's natural for folks like us that are kind of analyzing this team and covering it to start to look toward 2025 at the end of 2024. Based on what they've done the last 3 weeks in the transfer portal, has your outlook for next year's LSU team changed than it was before Thanksgiving?
I think I don't know that my evaluation has changed a ton. I think what they have done, at least though, is address the holes that they had on that roster. But we got to kind of let it see it play out before it's really going to be obvious whether or not that's going to propel them to like a playoff berth like they need to try to get to next year. Just because, I mean, you look at last year, Ole Miss signed the number 1 transfer portal class in the country, and they still went 9-3 and missed the playoff. But Oregon had the number 2 class, and now they're the number 1 seed. It can be so hit or miss in the portal. A team like Florida State that was always relying on it plummets within a year. Whereas a team like Indiana signed the 28th ranked class in the country, transfer class in the country, and they made the playoff. So I think what they've at least done is address the holes that they had on this roster. Go and, they still need to get some safeties. Brian Kelly said today they're not done looking for offensive linemen, but they've probably done the best that they could in the position that they were in to refill this roster, address the problems that they had, and then we'll see as we get into the spring and into next season exactly if those players can translate to helping this team take a step forward.
You a Tex-Mex guy or barbecue guy there in Houston?
Barbecue.
There you go. Well, enjoy some of that. Enjoy the football. Safe travels back to Baton Rouge. Thanks, Wilson.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
It is a Monday. It means we're brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com. All your printing, scanning, copying needs. We head out to the Jim's Firearms Hotline once again. Denton Day, SiriusXM's college football overtime. With us, Denton, how we doing?
Hunt, I am electric. I'm sure you saw last night. A really good football player gave me the first 11-win season in my entire life for the team that I support. So things are going very well up here. I hope the same is for you guys down there.
It's not. The Saints are atrocious. They embarrassed themselves yesterday, and LSU's playing in the Texas Bowl tomorrow. So, no, not as good. But we are thrilled. I did a segment at the end of my last hour going, guys, I have a confession to make. Like, I live and breathe LSU. I live and breathe the Chicago Cubs. And, like, I take the losses really hard, and I celebrate the wins really hard. And now I've got the Bengals for the last 5 years, and now Washington, that, like, I celebrate the wins, and the losses don't really affect me. I feel like I'm cheating the system to a degree, but it is what it is. I've never pulled for the Bengals or Washington before, and now I kind of am. And so I'm enjoying this, not as much as you, but I am enjoying it. And I got to think that spirits are as high there in the capital city as they've been in a long time.
Yeah, I do think it is somewhat poetic that, you pull for the Bengals and the Commanders. I am a very big Joe Burrow fan, so I'm in a similar boat. Obviously, a little bit more with the Commanders, but the fact that they both won in overtime, 30-24, there's something to be said about that. And they're two. I mean, as much as I love Burrow and Jay Daniels, like they have some attributes that are very much like serial killer attributes. They just don't change no matter what the pressure is. It's insane to watch, and I'm so glad that it's finally benefiting the team that I support.
I talked to you in like late September, maybe mid-October, when Jaden was doing some really good things, and we talked about how, the NFC, like, who are you terrified of? And now all of a sudden I look up and I'm like, well, Minnesota looks really good. I think Green Bay's pretty good. And obviously the Lions are really good if beat up. And Philly has something to found it. And you felt really good about Washington's chances competing in the NFC playoffs. Do you still feel that way today?
Yeah, because of him.
Okay.
Because of number 5. Like, if you look at this roster top to bottom, I think yesterday was a great example for those that don't get to watch them on a weekly basis. Defensively, they are incredibly limited. I mean, Michael Penix left about 21 points on the board with misses. We saw him making college last year all the time. Like, it was easy to him. The defensively, they're just not that sharp of a football team. But if you got number 5, man, I mean, this is the at old age, right? If you got a quarterback, you got a chance. As long as you got Jaden, you got a chance.
Are you concerned with how many hits he's taken in the second half? I was. He's running all over the place.
Yes, and I prefer, like, this weekend is a big game for a lot of different reasons to get them the 6th seed. And it's like you're in a weird position because you want to go out there and win the football game, but I would really prefer Jaden to not run 16 times against a bad Dallas Cowboy team, right? So, like, it's you got to find that balance because there was that one hit at the very end of overtime, right before the game-winning touchdown. He got the wind knocked out of him. Now, thankfully, it wasn't like a rib thing. Obviously, a lot of us were concerned. I mean, he had that knee situation in the first half, which I nearly about threw my lunch up from like the past 4 days. But I love the way that he competes. Yeah, there's something to be said about that. I don't want him to run 16 times this upcoming weekend, but hot damn, man, he just has that mode that not many guys have.
He's really, really good. All right, let's talk some college football playoff. It starts with Penn State and Boise in the Fiesta. It's an 11.5-point number. Penn State, they won a big game last week against a limited team. They got another limited team here coming up. We all knew that was going to be the case when the bracket came out. How do you feel about the Nittany Lions' chances against Ashton Genty and company?
Yeah, that number seems large, but I guess they earned it based on the way that they beat SMU. I thought SMU was going to put up the best fight last weekend of the teams that were not really supposed to be here, if we're being honest. I guess I'm going to have to take Penn State again, laying a big number. I mean, Genty is fantastic. I don't think there's anything that you can say to knock him, but the rest of Boise State is not Ashton Genty. It's not like they have 22 guys, 11 on offense, 11 on defense with him. They got one really good running back, but you're not winning a college football playoff game with one really good running back. That's not how this sport is meant to be played. They got Penn State because of their defense. They were able to kind of escape the bad Drew Aller game. I think Drew Aller plays better. I think he plays better tomorrow. So I think Penn State's going to win this one pretty handedly. It's been a fun story with Boise State, but I think it ends tomorrow.
Another good running back, Cam Scadaboo, was Arizona State Sun Devils playing the Peach Bowl against Texas. That's a 12.5-point number in the ATL. Texas coming off that big win over Clemson where their defense wasn't as good and their offense was great, which is kind of inverse of what they had been doing. What do you think about that one?
I think this one's going to be a shootout. I like Arizona State a lot more than I like Boise State, just as the comparison goes with Penn State and Texas. I think Cam Scadaboo's awesome. I think it's a travesty that he was not at the Heisman Trophy award ceremony. I think you and I talked about that. He should have been there, even if we knew he wasn't going to win the thing, to get out there. But I love what Arizona State has done this year. They've been the most fun story in college football because unlike Indiana, they've beaten teams that you could at least point to and say they're pretty decent. They're pretty all right. I think Arizona State's going to make it fun in the first half. I think in the second half you'll see Texas pull away. But I think Arizona State makes it fun in the first half, and I think we'll be enjoying that game more than we enjoyed most in the opening weekend.
I can't get a read on this one because every time I say Arizona State hasn't beaten anybody that I respect, and I really trust me, I'm an elitist. I have to go, well, who's Texas beating? Do I care about A&M? Is that what I'm hanging my hat on here? But then I just feel like Texas has more 4- and 5-star guys, and I value that. But their defense wasn't as good last week. But Clemson has some 4- and 5-star guys. I'm not sure. I'm not going to lay a number of any money on it, but 12.5 seems like a lot of points.
Yeah, 12.5 is a big one. I guess what Texas did last week against Clemson was they showcased their offense is still there.
Yeah.
Because it really felt like when they had been getting big numbers throughout the course of the season, they're just completely not laying eggs, but they didn't look like a dominating team. This past week was the first time it looked like, oh, yeah, this is why Texas was ranked as highly as they were to start the season and kind of rode that ranking really to the end of this thing. So if we see what we saw last week, this could get ugly for Arizona State, but I don't know that I feel like Texas, what we saw against Clemson, is exactly what they are now. So I think Arizona State will at least hang around.
The rematch, Ohio State and Oregon from the Rose Bowl. Ohio State, last checked, a 2.5-point favorite there. This was a great one. The first time I detailed it earlier, 7 lead changes in that game the first time around. How do you see it?
This one is the national championship as far as I'm concerned. I think whoever wins this one is going to be the forefront to win the championship. I think these are the two best teams. You know, the way that this thing got seeded out, it is a little absurd that we're getting this one now. But I also love that we're getting this one in the Rose Bowl. I can't think of a better environment to play this kind of football game. I think I still lean Oregon. You know, I've been bit in the past by trying to, you know, when teams play twice, trying to jump on the other side after game number one. I think I'm going to go with Oregon. I think I'm leaning Oregon. I loved what Will Howard did in round number one. It's just a question of, can he do that again? Because he was the guy that had the big mistake in that game. I don't know that it cost them the game. You know, there's a lot of football to be played over the course of a game, but he has that memorable mistake. So this is poetic for him to get a chance at redemption. But I think I'm leaning Oregon. I'm a big Dan Lanning guy, and I think this might be the year that we kind of see him win a championship and kind of cement himself as a really, really top-tier college football coach.
That would do it. It'd be a big move for them in the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day. And the last one right down the road here in Louisiana, Notre Dame and Georgia. Of course, the big storyline is no Carson Beck. What does it mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think it means something big. I haven't been a huge fan of Carson Beck this year, but he certainly gave you moments throughout the course of big games where you're like, all right, I kind of understand why people were so excited about him. I don't know what to expect with Gunnar Stockton. You know, that game against Texas, I thought was more about Texas's inability rather than Georgia's ability. And the way that Notre Dame played, they looked really good against Indiana. I just question whether or not they can put them away. Like, if they jump out to a 2-score lead, are they going to be disciplined enough to keep their foot on the throat of a team like Georgia? I think I do like Notre Dame in this one just because I'm not going to go and trust Gunnar Stockton to win a playoff game in what is his first really, really big game in college football. I mean, I can't imagine the pressure that guy's sitting with this week. So I'm going to reluctantly go Notre Dame. I feel silly saying that because we know their history in the college football playoff, and I don't think they're a great team, rather. I think they have some limitations when it comes to throwing the football, but I think Notre Dame is going to get this done. But I think this is going to be a real low-scoring game.
All right, let me ask you a big picture question here because we're coming off of an era that included Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence and Tua and Mac Jones and it's just a lot of points and excitement at the top of the sport. Even you're not looking at Stetson Bennett and going, what an immense talent, but they scored a bunch of points when he was the quarterback at Georgia. And I'm looking at these teams: Penn State, Boise, Texas, Arizona State, Notre Dame, Georgia. And I'm looking at a lot of teams that are not elite on offense. Why is that?
I think that's just the sport this year. Like, this is a real big downtrot when it comes to offensive efficiency. You know, as an NFL fan, it was hilarious yesterday watching New York Giants win a game where they should have lost. They can get their quarterback, but at the same time, you're laughing because, like, who's the quarterback? Yeah, Shador and Cam are both really good, but across the sport, there's been no Joe Burrow or Tua's, Jaden, Caleb's. Like, you can take a long list of great quarterbacks that have been in this sport over the past couple of years. There are none of them this year, and there certainly aren't any of them at the big programs. Like, Dylan Gabriel's fine, but he's not this world beater of a quarterback, right? Like, Will Howard's fine. He's not this world beater of a quarterback. This has just been such a weird downtrot of quarterback play this year. It's been kind of tough, to be honest. Defensively, because it's not like anyone's great on defense either. Like, that's what's been so tough about this, at least with Georgia and Stetson Bennett. He wasn't this all-world quarterback, but they were so good on defense where it was fun to watch them. This has been tough this year because no one has really stepped up at the quarterback spot amongst the teams that are in the playoffs.
How could I possibly let you off the hook without a Texas Bowl pick? LSU and Baylor, a huge one from NRG tomorrow. Who you got?
Is this a Dave or Aranda revenge game? Are we looking at like?
I don't think it's revenge. I think it's like a kumbaya game. Welcome back, Dave. Great to see you. Thanks for all that great stuff.
I'll go LSU.
Way to suck up to the home crowd. We got like 8 guys on offense that have opted out. We'll see how it goes. Enjoy all the football. Happy New Year, and let's talk about the continuation of the college football playoff next week.
Hunt, I appreciate it as always, man. Be well.
That is Denton Day, SiriusXM's College Football Overtime. Good enough to spend some time with us each and every Monday. Our Monday
You're listening listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
All right, reminder for those that missed it a little bit earlier, our broadcast schedule for tomorrow, not a standard Tuesday as it is New Year's Eve, but more importantly, LSU and Baylor in the Kinder's Texas Bowl. Kickoffs at 2:30. So pregame on Eagle 98.1 will start up at 8:30. That's an hour earlier than normal for a 2:30 kick because they're going to go for 4 hours, 8:30 to 12:30, without a postgame show on Eagle. So Matt Musso, Charles Hanegrim, 8:30 tomorrow. They'll hand it off to me at 12:30, 2 hours for kickoff. Myself, Brandon Taylor, Marlon Favorite will be with you until 2 o'clock. We'll hand it off to the broadcast team in Houston. They'll have the call of the game 30 minutes after it goes final. Me, Brandon, Marlon for another hour, recapping the game and the season that was. And there will be no Eagle 98.1 post-game show for the bowl game. Folks there, Hannegriff, Richard Dixon, production staff, all going to enjoy their New Year's Eve away from the job. So tomorrow, starting at 8:30, we'll be on, and I would imagine my post-game show over on the network will wrap sometime around 8 o'clock or so. So got to get a pick for the game. I've talked about it a good bit over the last week or so. Baylor is whole pretty much for this game. They're missing a nickel back, about two guys that have opted out, and LSU is losing a big chunk in the offense. You lose your two tackles, both your guards either compromised or moving. Then you have your three of your top four pass catchers out of the game. Like it's a big deal. But I do think that LSU is going to be able to function on offense. I don't think it's going to be an absolute disaster a la John Trey Kirkland game, a la Florida State last year. I think LSU will be able to function. And I think Baylor's got a good offense. An offense, Sawyer Robinson calling the shots that will move the ball on an LSU defense that's just been okay this year. I don't think Robinson hurts LSU running with his feet. But I do think that they'll run the ball a little bit, and I do think that they'll hit some passes as well. I think this is going to be a close game. I've said that. I think LSU was a better team from Labor Day to Thanksgiving. I think that's been compromised a little bit from the opt-outs on the offense. I just don't think the LSU offense is going to be as efficient as it was. And because of that, I'm going to pick Baylor to win the game 27-24. I'm curious to see how the offensive line plays. I really am there. I want to see a healthy Caden Durham. I'd like to see some of Deshaun Spears as a guy that I'll certainly be watching. I'd like to see Ashton Stamps maybe make a play in this game. Trades Green, another one that I'll be watching. But again, it's just not one that I think is going to be impactful for the 2025 season. I'm saying that right now before they kick it off. I will say it after the game goes final. Win or lose, I don't think the game impacts 2025. I certainly hope LSU wins the game. I pick Baylor to win it. We'll see how it goes. All right, Taylor, take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
All right, Hunt Palmer. BetUS has posted odds on the new Miami basketball coach. Will Wade has the second shortest odds. Will Wade in South Beach. Take it or leave it.
I will take it. That sounds awesome. Get him out of the Southeastern Conference. I like Will Wade. I appreciate what he did at LSU. Some people don't. I do. Thought it was fun. He can go to Miami and spin the bet wallet or what's that thing called?
It's a gem, right?
No, it's the thing is something wallet that the guy made. It's some sort of proprietary thing, and he made a bunch of money. And Life Wallet, there it is, Life Wallet. Couldn't find it. Yeah, and he's got a bunch of money. Let Will Wade spend that money. I'm sure he'll be really good at Miami, and I don't have to pull against him every single week. So, yeah, send Will Wade to South Beach. That sounds great to me.
Rex Ryan and Ron Rivera are expected to interview for the Jets head coach job. Rex back in New York. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave it because I like Rex Ryan on TV.
Leave it alone.
I like Rex Ryan on Countdown. I like him on SportsCenter. I like him. He's candid. He's got good personality. He's got a knowledge of the game. He obviously did a great job with the Jets. Got him to the conference championship game. What was that, 3 times with Mark Sanchez? So, yeah, I think he's a really good coach. But I like him on TV, so I'll leave it. And Ron Rivera, I think he's now pretty well retried. Did a good job in Carolina. Things in Washington didn't go very well. But, we'll see. The Jets seem to get it wrong more often than not, so we'll see.
Black-eyed peas and cabbage on New Year's Day. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. It's luck. It's money. I eat it every year. Have I had some good fortune in my life? Absolutely. Am I rich? I'm not. So the cabbage is not really working to the extent that maybe the black-eyed peas are, but the wife is not willing to skip out on that ever on the chance that it could really hurt our fortunes. So we're going to go with black-eyed peas and cabbage on New Year's Day in some capacity.
NC State transfer wide receiver Casey Conception has committed to Texas A&M. Next year is finally the Aggies' year. Take it or leave it.
We're going to leave it. Did some Texas A&M research over the weekend after they gagged that bowl game away. And they got some holes on that roster at this point. And I'll be really honest. Like, I could be proven dead wrong, but I'm not terrified of Marcel Reed. And I realized that an A&M fan could clip that and then show the highlights of A&M absolutely annihilating LSU with Marcel Reed at quarterback. But he doesn't, to me, look like the guy that's going to take Texas A&M to the conference championship and into the playoffs and deep into it. I just don't think that's the case. I think A&M can probably do a little bit better than that. I realize he's a freshman. We'll see, but I'm not convinced.
All right, last one. Right now, the New England Patriots have the best odds to get the number 1 pick. A QB will not go first overall. Take it or leave it.
I'll leave it. Somebody will move up and go get that quarterback. If the Patriots don't want to take one, someone will come take it and give them a king's ransom for it. So that's just the way the league tends to work. I think it would be fine if the Patriots wanted to sit there and take whoever it is that's supposed to be the number 1 player, whether it's a tackle or an edge rusher. I haven't even looked that deep into the number 1 pick in the draft. And since there's not a slam dunk quarterback like we always talk about, I don't know whether it's Shador or whatever, like, I'm not sure. But I think if the Patriots get that pick, somebody will want Shador badly enough to give the Patriots whatever they want to back up a little bit, and I think that's probably how it'll go. So that's my story. I'll stick to it, and we'll see how that shakes out next week. All right, that'll do it for a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Shout out to our guy Trey Beal and all the folks over at Gulf Coast Office Products. You can check them out online at gcopnet.com. All your printing, scanning, copying needs, they've got you covered.